Zenless Zone Zero is like Hoyoverse borrowed a bunch of ideas from Trigger and Atlas to create the mother of all unsolicited crossovers to create a Persona game. Slapped it with Gacha hell, and then sprinkled it with a generous helping of Honkai Impact III as well as Genshin Combat to make for one of the most stylish gacha games to date. And I can't stop playing it. And of course, the very obvious nerfs. Because I know for a fact that a lot of you are here for Nicole, or the battle maids, the furries, or for the thickest waifu in the game, Billy. Sadly, Virgil's furry daughter is nowhere to be found at launch, and all you get is an angry shark maid to beat down bad for, then mauled over her when you run out of limited rolls. But there's just one main issue of this game. They forget to tell you that this isn't just a hack and slash game. It's actually a grid maze game with hack and slash segments that takes anywhere between 10 to 20 hours to reach its full potential, which lost a lot of people with its slow progression. But I really wanted to love this polished game and admire Nicole's ginormous personality. So I decided to let this game cook for another 30 hours, and truth be told, I'm very surprised about how different I feel about this game coming this far, and actually crave more of it despite the amount of time it takes. Which now brings us to the story. Zenless' story is fairly simple. Multiple dimensional disasters known as the Hollows have destroyed the entirety of civilization for the 100th time in a gacha game, and the only city left is New Eridu, a city that has its own Internaut, which somehow remains terminally online amidst the apocalypse. The Internaut is basically a big Reddit page that acts as your hub to keep your identity a secret and do shady dealings under your Internaut account. And just like in real life, no matter how tired you are at the end of the day, you know you'll be reading memes on your phone before you go to sleep at night. One thing's for certain in this game, I'm in this picture, and I do not like it. You are tossed into the role of one of two siblings, Belle and Darth Plagueis the Wise. Sadly, without the Darth Plagueis. And yes, his name is Wise. And the two of you are the legendary proxy Python. And what a proxy does is to guide agents who are part of the various factions throughout New Eridu through the dangerous hollows to fight monsters called ethereals in search of treasure or to do jobs for well-paying clients for money. Except you do it for the safety of your gaming chair at home by controlling a robot rabbit known as a bamboo. Also, you don't even have the permits to enter the hollows, so what you do is in fact very illegal. Fortunately, New Eridu privacy laws are surprisingly strict and nobody has docked you yet the entire time that you have been a legendary proxy. And so, the story is told through a mix of gorgeous 3D cutscenes, stylized western comic book panels and visual novel style segments, as the first chapter introduces us to the Cunning Hares, comprising of Green Waifu Raiden from Metal Gear Rising, Anbi, and Nicole, who's perpetually in debt, who took on a sketchy job to steal a mysterious lockbox containing the plot MacGuffin from the Red Fang gang. Unfortunately, they're pretty bad at stealth due to the clap of Billy's stainless steel cheeks. So the boss and his lackeys begin to chase them. The boss expresses how sad he is at their betrayal. The cops show up in an Apache attack helicopter. Nicole attempts to surrender, but the helicopter pilot decides he's not taking any prisoners today and blasts everyone including the Red Fang gang anyway. And it blows everybody out of the building to fall right into the hollows to fight some monsters. Nicole somehow finds her way to you, where you strike a very expensive deal and agree to guide them out of the hollows, so our cunning hares do not end up turning into the cunning space monsters. But in order to give you an excuse to use your actual account name and level up your internet account from scratch, you get hacked mid-mission by an unknown party, leaving the cunning hares out to dry as the culprit deletes all of your important Python documents and threatens you for the lockbox code. But fortunately for you, your protagonists are pretty smart. They pull off a Death Note level play, give their Python account to the hacker so they can then pull an Uno reverse and swat them for being the owner of the Python account. The hacker probably gets arrested and the Python account is now gone, probably seized by the police. Whoops. Which now means you start afresh with your conveniently made second account and rebuild your lost Reddit karma with the community, only to find out that the lockbox contains a very powerful AI named Fairy that takes over your entire PC, causes your electricity bill to skyrocket, and accesses 80% of all data from every device in the city, which probably means Fairy knows your spicy search history. So you eventually stop a corporate president from blowing up a town full of people to avoid rehousing them for its railway construction with the help of a cat girl, and hunt down construction equipment with the Bellowbog crew to surpass Metal Gear. All while you contend with the overarching plot of super AIs working in the shadows and the top dogs of New Eridu, which you probably won't be seeing for another 40 hours of playtime because this game progresses extremely slowly with its gameplay loop and commissions, which are the side quests by the way, which you might initially ignore until the devs tell you they're actually mandatory, because to get past the multiple level restrictions to unlock the story further, you need EXP, which mostly comes from these commissions and partly from your daily farming. And everything in this game is also sprinkled with a generous serving of CRT TVs, the Hollow Deep Dives, where you play as a rabbit plushie jumping across TV screens, which makes up a good third of every story mission, exploration mission, and of course your endgame Hollow Zero, which range from playing Bomberman with an angry TV rabbit, connecting the dots while gathering all the intel, or of course playing Bomberman again, except the bombs are now upgradable. Also, I seriously hope you're not colorblind, because there's also a point where you solve a color captcha that's in red, yellow, and blue at some point. Oh no! And to spice things up further, they do also toss in the rally commission sometime later, where you can run around and explore an actual map for once. Well, all of this really good stuff is a little too late before most people lose patience with the TVs by the end of the first chapter. It took me about 15 hours to really get into this game, and that's in fact a lot of time I've sunk into this game, considering it's taken a good 30 hours over a single week just to hit level 28 or so. Which is quite ironic, seeing that the daily missions are quick and easy, drinking coffee or getting a scratch card from the fluffiest of boys to save time. But I guess that's so you can dedicate the time to the meat of the game, which is and to visit the good boy manning the newspaper stand or get your mandatory lot of side missions outside of the internat. This brings us to my favorite part. The part where you run around New Eridu, Persona style, and take in all of the detail they put into this open world. All the stores become more crowded in the afternoon for lunchtime, there's a huge variety of NPCs that will come and go depending on the time, and everyone will then clear out at night, except for the copy shop owner and general chop shop, which both probably run till midnight in this economy. The free roam sections go through a full day and night cycle that runs through an entire week as you complete quests throughout the day, starting from the morning and going through the afternoon, evening, and then the night, where you then crash on the sofa or go sleep in your room. You can then open the front for your illegal proxy activities throughout the day with the help of your volunteers for in-game currency who are all doing this for clout. Teach a bunch of robots how to kick a ball, and of course, the most important thing is to take photos of cats, and then pet the cat for 5 minutes. And before I spend another 5 minutes fluffing the cat, I have to say, the city of New Eridu is a lot smaller than most of the other recent Hoyo titles in terms of exploration, which prompts the devs to hide a lot of sources of polychrome, the premium currency, throughout the world. Whether it's from the daily scratch ticket on certain days from the good as the boys, opening the chests, or playing competitive Snake, the devs definitely tried their best to make it interesting. But no matter what they do, there's just not enough in the early game, especially when you spend 20 to 30 minutes on a TV segment only to get a measly 30 polychrome.
But you can't do this to me.
And again, it's never enough when you're gunning for that 90 pity on the gacha, only to get 6 copies of a goofy blue girl. Which now brings me to my second favorite part, the combat. And the combat makes up the good chunk of the playtime once you've played far enough, whether it's from the story or during farming for materials to level up characters. Farming in this game ranges from characters and skill upgrade materials that slowly unlock over time. If you don't have enough stamina or don't need the extra materials, you can always just remove a couple of mobs from the rotation and then use less stamina in the process. Boss fights can be eventually run by the end of chapter 2, and there's also a casual battle mode to reduce the HP of the mobs in the story for people who want to focus on the story instead, or simply don't have the time to play the challenge mode, which is in fact the base game difficulty. Initially, I found the combat extremely simple but paired with detailed animations, but soon it becomes a lot deeper as you progress through the game and learn the different mechanics for each character. Control-wise, every character or agent comes with a base attack, a single ability, a character swap button, a dodge, and an ultimate ability that charges over time, each having one of 5 elements: ether, ice, lightning, fire, and physical, with different status effects that synergize depending on the element and the squad they're from. And because I have no idea what I'm doing in the combat, most of the tutorials that I've read through have given us an entire wall of text detailing special parries and special dodges or something for the people who want more depth in the combat, which I refuse to read through because it's way too confusing. So I'll instead explain the important bits. Characters recharge energy on their own to allow them to use skills. The swap button has 6 charges which allow for stylish parries when pressed at the right time, and enemies have a break bar that when broken summons the homies to take turns beating the living out of the broken enemy. And through doing all this, you can then use it to build up your Devil May Cry combo meter, which when maxed out at 3000 smoking sexy style, allows you to use your ultimate. And the more stylish you are, the more points you get. And some of the characters also come with extra mechanics like Shark Girl having a running sprint when you hold her dash, holding the attack button with Pizza Cutter Maid, causing her to rip and tear until it is done. And of course, characters like Coletta and Ben having cooperative attacks, and we can't stop there, because everyone is cool until Metal Gear Excelsus shows up to beat your ass. And this is about 25 hours into the game. But back on the topic of characters, there's plenty of them to choose from, whether it's the starter trio, caked up robots, or sassy biker kids. But my favorite squad has to be Bellowbog Industries, comprising of an angry mouse, a bear with a rocket pillar, neuron activation, and Kamina from Gurren Lagann. Believe in the Anton who believes in you, because I know you probably got spooked by him multiple times. Also, his brother is his drill. And with this treasure, my SSRW engine that I totally should have tossed on an SSR if my gacha luck would have permitted, I summon Anton's brother to pierce the heavens. Do not sleep on the A ranks and just play whoever you think is fun, or whoever's waifu enough to simp over, and just complete your team. Because everyone is viable if you build them for the right squad, except you end up rolling the wrong 5-star for your team and are stuck in furry limbo. And to now get yourself out of this sad mess, you now have to scrounge up your limited rolls to roll the gacha. The limited character gacha in this game is nothing too new if you've seen Genshin or Star Rail, with a 0.6% for the banner SSR with 90 pity and of course 50-50 chances for getting the banner SSR. And even if you do lose 50-50, you get to hear this absolute banger. The W engine banner, the weapon equivalent, has a 2% SSR rate with a 75% chance of getting the banner SSR. There's also another banner, the Bangbu banner, with a 2% SSR rate with no 50-50. But I have extremely good news for you, because the Bangbu banner does not require premium currency and instead uses these golden rabbit statues that you get from in-game progression. And what might they do, you ask? Bangbus have a bunch of passives which increase damage either for having specific characters from a certain faction or elements, and I have to say, either choice works depending on who you end up rolling for your first SSR. I run with the Bellowbog crew, so I went Bellowbog team Bangbu, but my favorite is still Nicole's Bangbu because duplicates in this game, like in most other gachas, are used to progress your cinema. It's just called cinema for some reason. Which becomes absolute cinema when you've unlocked everyone's portraits the moment you hit 6 dupes, which just ends up Nicole's leaked OnlyFans. On top of this, the beginner 50 roll on the base banner gives you a free SSR for the cost of 40 rolls, and from there, 300 total rolls on the base banner will then give you a single selectable SSR of your choice. And fortunately, these 50 rolls also count towards the 300 rolls as well, which saves you a lot of trouble. And it sounds generous, doesn't it? Wrong. The yield in the early to mid game of the first 15 hours is pretty damn horrible, until you unlock the endgame content by Internaut level 20 and beyond, Hollow Zero and Shiyu Defense. Hollow Zero gets you to do the same thing you've been doing all game, fight mobs and run through the Walmart TVR again to level up your Hollow Zero level, and also get a bunch of upgrades. Except, there's a weekly EXP limit and you have to wait until the next week once you've hit said limit. Shiyu Defense on the other hand is split into two segments, the stable nodes and the critical nodes. The stable nodes are probably the first you've seen this much premium currency in a single dungeon clear, where you fight about 4 waves of enemies each and get 300 polychrome in a single lot. Pretty good trade-off, except it's a one-time thing. On the other hand, the critical nodes allegedly have 720 polychrome as a repeatable reward over time, but this is the true endgame mode, and I'm guessing most people have not reached this point due to the level limits or because they left early. Which now brings me to the verdict of Zenless Zone Zero at launch. Now that I've come to accept the existence of the TVs, it's honestly got to be about 8 TVs out of 10 bamboos at this stage. Everything from the combat to the Persona 5 exploration, extremely stylish graphics, and of course the presentation just ooze so much damn polish and love, of course, put in by the devs into the little details and animations. Yet the inherent design of Zenless's linear JRPG-esque storyline takes a lot of time in itself to cook without skipping the story, while paired with its extremely scarce resources. A combination of factors that has and will continue to filter out a ton of players from the game in the early game because it just doesn't really vibe with them. Which is a huge shame if you've had to skip the story and miss out on the colorful cast of characters just to progress the story at a fairly reasonable pace. But unlike the big Hoyo games like Star Rail and Genshin, the option is actually there, with the long-awaited skip button with a full summary of the cutscenes, so you can still keep track of the story even if you skip. And I guess the best part of it all, you can rewatch all the cutscenes from start to finish in the archive, which is your DVD rack. Genshin could never. And as someone who almost dropped the game at the end of chapter 1, a small part of me is kinda glad I stuck with it a bit longer to finally see this game shine a lot brighter with time after 20 to 30 hours. This has to be the happiest I've ever been to lose a 50-50, so I guess I'm sticking around for a bit longer then. But the important question is Zenless Zone Zero worth playing? I'm gonna have to give it a cup of maybe flavored coffee. Perhaps optimism is what's needed to truly enjoy Zenless Zone Zero, to simply take your time with it like a slow burn JRPG instead of rushing it like your usual gacha game. It's really not for everyone. And of course, you can enjoy the many references, whether it's Sisyphus or The Shining, and of course find something to latch onto for the memes like Anton, await Virgil's truly daughter, or enjoy what the fuck? Do like, favorite and subscribe if you want more spicy gacha content, Wuthering Waves and Swallow Leveling Arise reviews soon, once I recover from this madness, and of course Elden Ring. And so, stay safe, stay humble, and perhaps the real Zenless Zone Zero was the side quests and the TV puzzles we solved along the way. This is the Endinite, and we'll see you next time.